Yeah, the way we're doing it now, it's nice and smooth and low delay. So
Neat.
All right, so you know about the new stream, right?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I'm on it right now.
Okay, I will load
Yeah.
you up right now.
Sweet.
Excellent. Yeah, we had a lot of frame rate issues earlier in the day, but thankfully that seems to be a thing of the past, so...
Ditched hitbox, fixed everything.
Ditchbox. Here we go. Let's see. So we got Crash Team Racing coming up here now. If you guys haven't been paying attention to Crash Team Racing, a lot of stuff has happened to that game. And a lot of fun stuff has happened to that game. There's a new, like, wrong warp run. I guess it's, what is it, maybe a couple months old at this point now?
Yeah, it's only a month old, actually.
A month old? Yeah. I remember when we showed it on Final Split, and it was just like, okay. So they go in Battle Arena, they reload like 20 times, and the credits roll. Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
It's kind of does and kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's pretty interesting, but we are not showing that run here. We're going to show the warpless run of the game.
Yeah, I don't want to die 20 times and then be done with it, you know?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit more fascinating, I think. So here we go. Let me pull this up on the stream. Make sure I get the right number there. Okay.
a second to get your donations in if you want to snipe the file name.
Yeah, you still have a little time. See, I'm trying to stall. I'm trying to let him.
Ryan,
Get Joe in.
Trying to let him.
Ryan. Oh, see, look at that. Bull wants Joe. Oh, see, look at that. Bull wants Joe in.
Okay, your game and stream audio should be on the stream now.
Yep. Yeah, I'm ready to go whenever, so give us some hot file names.
Before we do that, once we're ready, I'll just do a quick plug about a prize. So, during Crash Team Racing, there is a prize. There's a really cool perler that was made courtesy of Sam's Sprites. Sam's has greatly donated a couple of perlers for us, so we really appreciate her work. You can check out her shop at, there's a link on the schedule, but it's basically etsy.com/shop/Sam Sprites. So yeah, please check her out. It's a really cool Aku Aku perler. So if you donate $5 during the Crash Team Racing run, you can win that. So $5, that's all you need to do.
All right, I have stalled long enough. It's time to tell us what the file name is going to be.
Alright.
It is going to be Nugs.
Alright.
Oh, hold the phones! Hold the phones!
Ooh, let's hold it.
I'm gonna rig this just like the
Oh!
WWE.
Oh my goodness. The last second
We got a
snipe.
donation, and it alters the file name.
Oh my goodness. What is going on? We had a last minute $20 snipe from Chaos for Joe Rogan.
I can't
Joe
believe it.
Rogan wins.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
I'll allow it too. Thank you for the donation.
I think it's AN, right?
Yeah, ROGAN.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Wow. There are antics going on in this stream right now. That's some shenanigans right there. Okay.
I mean, I'm
we are
happy,
ready
so-
to go when you are. You want to give a countdown?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a countdown. So, in 3, 2, 1, go. I'm gonna be timing RTA and I'll have my own splits, just time movement, I guess. I'll have Natty take over when I actually start moving here. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Crash Team Racing for the PlayStation 1, and we play this on a PlayStation 2 to make use of the fast disk speed option. So basically, we have faster load, saves about 2 minutes, I think, across.
Yeah.
1 to 2 minutes,
It's a bit under 2
something like
minutes.
that. So basically, this is a kart racer game where you have to prove you're the fastest racer on the planet to go off against an alien who wants to turn the whole place into a parking lot, basically. And the game obviously being a kart racer has a lot of speed tech in it. As you see, the most basic is these driftings that we do. A lot of the game we are pretty much going sideways the whole time. So the idea with our drifting is that you see the little bar at the bottom right. The idea is we want to do the mini turbo. So when you drift, you build up like a mini turbo, and then you release that mini turbo and you get some speed. And we want to make sure we release those as late as we can. And that way we get more reserves, and basically that holds our speed for longer. We'll get a bit more into reserves later because it's quite it's more of a complicated thing that makes more sense.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be explained well in a marathon ever. It's really deep, and you can even overflow the reserves to a point where you have infinite reserves. But that's not trialing, so we don't do that in actual runs.
Yeah, that's like you have to solid like mini turf, like 1 to 2 minutes, something like that. It's for like fastest lap kind of things. So this obviously being the first track is not too interesting. Obviously making sure we cut all the corners as tight as we can. Probably a good idea to mention the one per fruit at the beginning here as well. You may have noticed on the first lap, Paul collected 7 one per fruit from the box. It's random. We get either 5 to 8 one per fruit in a single box, and you can get up to 10 maximum. Once you have 10 one per fruit, you get a 2% speed boost, but every single one per fruit can actually contribute to that speed boost, and some tracks it's worth going to the one per fruit just to get that speed boost. Because it can be quite a detour. Yeah, we'll see in Rouge Tubes, we won't bother going for the one per fruit soul here, because it's the one crate that we could go for is a little out of the way, so we just not going to bother with that.
If I get lucky, I can get it.
Yes, you can shoot items at one per crates as well. Unfortunately, we've got a TNT, which you may notice. Well, we haven't got the mini map open, but there are actually other players in this game. They are they're not very good.
Yeah.
So we won't hopefully ever be overtaken by an AI in any point in the run until we get to some shortcuts later on, where we do have to go backwards at the start of the track, but obviously we'll get to those as well. So when it comes to items, really we only want them to utilize in case we can get more speed. So we can snipe boxes, which is really only useful in Rouge Tubes. We can get turbo items, which helps with keeping our speed. I think that's pretty much it. We'll also get to Tiger Temple, where we have a shortcut which requires certain items as well. So you'll see Paul's kind of going down this hill here, and he's doing a lot of hops. We call these hoppings, we call froggying.
Well, we don't call them that, but French people.
We don't. Yeah, there's a lot of terms in this game, and we have no contribution to the names. They were all named before I think we all started running this.
Yeah, it's from the Time community, them being like teenagers and watching Dragon Ball Z.
So by froggying, basically holding one shoulder button and mashing the other one, we do little hops, and that keeps speed. And we need to do that because when we go downhill, we get what's called a speed ghost. Now, what a speed ghost is basically we keep the speed that the hill gives us, and then by froggying, we're like, a mix of froggying and then going down the hill, we get to keep that speed for longer than what the devs maybe have intended for us. So we'll see that in quite a lot of tracks actually. Mystery Caves, for example, we're just going to come up to these tills here, and then down this hill, hold it out, and then start froggying there. We're also going to get this one per crate again. And then you'll see at this bottom right, the speedometer will hopefully stay as full speed according to that. So that shows we got full speed and keeping it as long as possible. You'll also see when we also froggy, we also sometimes froggy up hills, which are obviously on lap 2 and 3 of this track. Now the problem with just going with froggies is that we're not drifting. And if we're not drifting, that means we're losing our fire that's coming out of the back of the engine. So we need to make sure that we're not obviously froggying too much, and it doesn't always help if you don't have more speed than what you usually would have if you're just drifting, then it won't really help unless you're going up hills. So we'll see here, because we've got enough reserves, we can just go up that hill and then we can keep our speed there. And that it doesn't save a lot of time. There's a lot of very minor things. But obviously, they all add up across the track. So, I don't think what else have we got in this track?
Well, I mean, reserves are. You could go more into that, and like they do decrease, but it's every frame and depending on your version you're playing.
Yeah.
I'm on PAL version right now, so it's on 25 FPS as opposed to 30. So I lose less reserves every frame, which means I get to keep them for longer with the less MTs, aka mini turbos.
Yeah. So, basically, yeah, because NTSC and NTSC-J are 30 frames a second, it can be a bit more difficult to keep these reserves for as long as you can on PAL. I guess we'll go into version differences while we're on it.
Yeah.
The American and Japanese version is different to the European PAL version. The developers actually did a quite good job at keeping both speeds at relatively the same. So NTSC and PAL generally move at quite similar speeds. It's hard to really say which is faster. Obviously, we've got the language glitch going on, which we'll go into more detail when I think it's more appropriate. I think we'll keep that one for a bit later.
Yeah, like up to.
Yeah. So one of the really main differences is jump height. Now, on PAL, every time you do one of these little hops, you jump. Of the little number at the bottom, you'll see a 23. So we jump. I don't know what that number actually stands for, but it's 23 is how long we're in the air for. On NTSC and NTSC-J, that's 26, I believe. So basically, we're in the air slightly longer on NTSC-J and NTSC-U. And this can actually contribute to some of the frogging that we do from the... Basically, yeah, that's...
Yeah, Daisy.
That's pretty good.
That was gonna be
okay,
but I went really fast into a wall instead.
That's okay, I've got an extra lap to explain my point, and we can get on to that one. So, yeah, so some skips are easier on NTSC. Basically, well, I think all the skips are pretty much easier on NTSC just because you can jump higher. I mean, this one here, this shortcut's intended, but even that, you get that extra jump height can be a really good help. So, what we're going to see here is, hopefully, Paul can pull it off.
Yeah, I can.
Oh,
it's not, but I still made it. It's fine.
Oh. So this is using the speed ghost mechanic that we talked about in the other tracks. But instead of going down a big long hill, we're just going to stick to the wall and jump off the wall. And that downhill that we go, it's very small, but it's because it's so sharp, it gives us a maximum speed that we can go with the speed ghost. So you can actually get really high speeds on this track. It really... Oh, you get one?
Yeah, I get the one before. And then
one there.
Sick.
So yeah, that trick saves about, 2-3 seconds a lap?
Something like that, yeah.
You can keep it, past the finish line. The only issue with this track is those ramps can just completely eat your speed. If you don't get a good jump off them, then basically you lose that speed that you got from the speed ghost and you have to go back to drifting. So we see some of the language glitch in action there. You may notice Ripperoo didn't say anything during that cutscene, and well, his dialogue, his subtitles, they were also blank as well. You can also see there is no text on the screen, and you won't find any text during the Warpless run. I think there's only one abbreviation in the whole run, which is seen at 101%. Which is CBR, which is Crash Bandicoot Racing, we assume. But basically what the language glitch is when you start up the game, and because this is only PAL exclusive, you have options to select language. Obviously America only speak in English, and Japan only speak in Japanese. They only had that language to select, so, well, they didn't even have a language selection, it just defaulted. So the PAL version obviously has all these different languages. And the developers either completely forgot, or we don't know with these kinds of things, but you can just cancel out that menu, and it loads this weird state where the game just doesn't have any text whatsoever. As we said, we'll be able to see some of the more interesting things in Hub 2. like to spoil it. It's quite a unexpected one. I think pretty much most streams, if we do runs, we get someone in our stream asking what the hell's going on. So we'll keep that one. So that's the first hub. There's 4 hubs, and each hub consists of 4 races and then a boss race. The boss is always a track from that hub, so you'll see some tracks we do twice, like Rouge Tubes. But I think, well, Rouge Tubes is quite a good track anyway, so yeah, I don't mind doing that one twice. I think, what have we got now? Tiger Temple is the next track. Luckily, there isn't too much RNG in this game, but what little RNG there is, it can just completely destroy the run later on. But here's the more widely known RNG that can affect. So basically, in this track, there is a shortcut that is intended, it was coded in, and the only way you can take the shortcut is if you have an item you can either shoot or throw, and you have to throw it at a big door, which basically gets rid of the door, and then you can take the shortcut, and it saves 2 to 3 seconds per lap. But unfortunately, it does rely on getting that good RNG. Out of the items, there's 2 items that we can't use, and the rest of the items we can. But it's surprising how many times we don't get a full 3 out of 3 here, so...
There you go, that's already one miss.
Yeah, so TNTs we can only drop at the back of our cart, so that's no use, so we'll have to just drop that somewhere on the track. It can be a bit of a pain because, like we said, obviously we don't really care about the AI. Dropping nitros and TNTs, because they just, obviously just land on the track, if an AI doesn't run into them, they're going to be there on the next lap, so... because we take the same racing lines pretty much most of the time, we have to really drop these off in a place where we know the AI is going to go. Okay, so there we go, there's the shortcut. And we've also got a speed ghost going through there as well. And now we've got the start of this track, there's another speed ghost which we take.
I only got it once,
yeah. So you can speed ghost across that grass. You have a split second to decide whether or not you have the speed ghost or not, which is a bit... well, yeah, it's a bit annoying. 1 out of 3. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
1 out of 3. It's
I'm better than PB's 2 out of 3. I didn't used to be 0 out of 3 for the longest time until recently when I did a Finruns run.
Yeah, I mean, there's more chance. I mean, like I said, there's more chance of getting an item you can use, but still, it's just surprising how often we don't get, and you get 2 chances to get an item as well.
At least I get to show off, like that's all that matters to me, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the main thing people think when we say RNG and CTR. That's one of the things.
That can lose up to 9 seconds.
Yeah, 9 seconds. Which when you start getting the PB, like maybe I'm not quite at that level yet, but I know Paul definitely was grinding for his PB. Once you had that, you pretty much just had to reset because you just couldn't afford to be losing 9 seconds or even 6 seconds that early on into the run. So it can be a real pain. This track, Cocoa Park, this is a very basic track. We do collect 1 per because that one's not too far away. Now that grass, that hill that we cut, unfortunately isn't the most consistent things in the game.
The bane of me.
Yeah, there is. Well, you can do it consistently, but it's so precise because it basically relies on you jumping in the same spots on that hill to get propelled up it and then off it. If you don't get a good bounce off it, then you get stuck, and it's still quicker. So. Yeah, there we go. So if you don't get a good jump off it, you get kind of stuck, and obviously the grass slows you down. It's still quicker doing that than going around, but it's still losing time. And I said because we're on PAL, this is a good thing to see with PAL and NTSC differences. On NTSC, it's very well. It still can happen, but it's a lot less likely that you get stuck because NTSC just completely shoots you straight over it really easily.
The good thing about PAL though is that you get a better SG from that hill because PAL has better SG than any other version for some reason. I don't know why, but it gives you more speed on every single downhill, like this.
Yeah. One. So it's worth saying at this point that PAL is faster than NTSC. NTSC-J is a complete no, unfortunately. Despite the theme of the marathon, you don't really want to run on the Japanese version of the game. Although being the same physics and everything as the American version, the cutscenes are all different on the Japanese version. And there's this huge monologue right at the end of the game where Oxide, the final boss, just talks to you for about a minute and a half, I think it is.
Yeah.
And so you lose about a minute over a NTSC-U run. Now, because we have language glitch and we do skip a cutscene further into the run, we'll point it out when we do. Again, it's one of those unexplainable things. We don't know why it happens. It just does, and we're just going to use it anyway. So we skip a cutscene that lasts 23 seconds. And as I said earlier, because NTSC and PAL generally run at the same speed, we're just going to assume at this point that PAL is faster. But of course, it's just one of those things, because it's a frame rate difference, it's just not easy to say exactly how much faster PAL is. We've got anything from 1 to 20 seconds floating up in the air, which doesn't exactly seem that great, but, you know.
Well, I mean, I think the recent study you and me did was like, you know, the relic animations and stuff like that, they take a short amount of time on PAL. So that saves a bit of time in like the entirety of the run, because on PAL you have language glitch, so Aku/Uka doesn't tell you that, hey, congratulations, you did good. Nobody tells you that. And then TSC, they're more enthusiastic about your victories and then lose you time on telling you that you did well.
Yeah. And we've completely forgot to explain this shortcut that we're doing here. That's unintended. So the pillar jump that we do first onto the thing with a big Papu head on it, that's an intended shortcut, but the wall isn't. So we jump on that, and what the wall does and what makes it a bit difficult is that the wall just, because it's coded to push you onto the track. So when you're not on what the game classes as the track, it wants to push you back onto the track. So when you're on that wall, you're constantly having to readjust to make sure it doesn't just completely push you off. And you can, there are three outcomes. You can either fall back onto the track, you can fall off, or you can obviously land on the track, which Paul managed to pull off all 3 times there. Yay, it's the run. If you fall off the track completely, that's, oh god, that's like 7 seconds, I think.
Something like that, yeah. Or you can do the worst mistake of all time and miss the finish line.
Yes. Obviously, if you jump on the track, you can do the backup, which is about 5 or so seconds lost. But obviously, you can't go for the shortcuts. You have to go for a different one, which is the intended shortcut. But yeah, what you can do on that track is, and you can do this on any track theoretically, but obviously not all tracks have a ramp or anything to jump off. But you can jump over the finish line very easily in this game if you have the means to do it. And if you're not like 4 wheels on the floor crossing the finish line, the game will think you didn't cross it, and it will just say, no, you didn't do that. Puts you whatever position you're on at the start of the lap, and that's pretty much a straight up run killer. I mean, you can salvage it, luckily, on Papu's Pyramids, because how the track loads, you can jump back down and do another lap, and that loses about, I don't even know how much that loses, but it's, you know, it's at least 15 seconds. But we'll see Dragon Mines later in the game. That track, it's very easy to just accidentally skip the track, and then that's straight up. That's a whole lap you have to do again. That's a straight, that's at least 25 seconds, if not more.
It's a very cutely common mistake for some experienced runners too. Yeah,
it's quite a fun thing to happen. So when we said about the language glitch, this is what we meant. So, I mean, we can let this play out, but there isn't any sound.
You can compare the garage door. Papa's not feeling well, I don't think.
Yeah, he didn't have a big enough breakfast, I don't think. So, that door at the background is basically what Papu should look like, but instead, he's got Pinstripe's head. So, Pinstripe is another boss in this game, and every single boss has a cutscene at the start and after you've raced them. And what the language glitch has done, and this is just another one of those unexplainable things. I mean, the whole language glitch just screws up this game so bad. But you know, it's pretty funny as well. It's a nice novelty that the game has. So it basically rearranges all of the boss's heads. So you'll see Pinstripe will be on Papin, and we'll see the other boss heads. Weirdly, the same like swaps. So you'll see Pinstripe will be on Pappy's head twice, and then all the bosses will be on a different head, but you won't see any more than that. And no dialogue as well. So all the cutscenes are sort of mixed up, so that cutscene's not the same length as what you have on NTSC, but I think some cutscenes are longer on PAL. But basically they're playing different dialogue. Not that you can hear it, but the actual cutscene is playing a different cutscene on different lengths there.
You can tell from the lip sync.
Yeah. If you played the game, actually you can pretty much tell this second cutscene that we'll see is the one where you actually defeat Pinstripe, and you can kind of tell from his expression that he's not too happy about it, so you can kind of tell from that. And again, doing that shortcut there and getting 3 out of 3, so pretty good runs so far, I think.
Yeah, it's alright.
Do we have a moment to plug a couple things?
Sure.
Yeah.
Alright, just wanna real quickly let everybody know this is JRTA3. We are raising money for 2 Japanese runners in Suzuri and Honki to get over to AGDQ. Suzuri will be participating, both of them will be participating at AGDQ, and Suzuri will be doing Kirby's Dream Land 3, which is a co-op run. Will be part of the Donkey Kong Country Trilogy Relay Race, and will also be in the Kirby Superstar 100% race. Honki will as well also be in the Kirby Superstar 100% race. So yeah, we are trying to raise $3,800 to get them all there. So we do appreciate all your donations. Speaking of donations, during this run, nobody has donated yet, but you could donate $5 and get yourself an Aku Aku Perler Sprite. Really cool sprite. You can see a picture in our schedule. This is courtesy of Sam Sprites. You can go to our shop at etsy.com/ca/shop/samsprites. You can just check that in the schedule as well. She's donated a few perlers, so you'll kind of be seeing that throughout the rest of the marathon. So yeah, get your money in. We have also cool incentives such as the Undertale, the infamous hug or no hug incentive. Right now, hug is in the lead, but you can donate for no hug if you wish. Also, some other stuff we haven't talked about recently. There's the Dragon Quest V file name. That's coming up fairly soon. You can donate for that. It has to be in hiragana or katakana characters, so come up with a good Japanese phrase, see if you can fit that in and donate for it. We also have Final Fantasy III character names. Same issue. They have to be in hiragana or katakana. So if you come up with a nice, neat phrase, you can use 4 names for Final Fantasy III. There's nothing donated for that yet. You can put your own whole paragraph in 4.
You could literally donate $1 4 different times right now, and you'd have all 4 file names
Exactly.
or character names for Final Fantasy III.
You could tell a story with that. But if that's not your cup of tea, that's fine. We have stuff like Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, beat all bosses instead of any percent that need some help. And in Final Fantasy III, Nacho will beat the Game Boy game Trip World during the Final Fantasy III credits if you donate for that. That needs just $40 more. So there's a lot of cool things coming up, and of course cool prizes to win, so we appreciate all your donations. And of course, even if you can't donate, we appreciate the support by watching, following, giving us the host, just spreading the word on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on MySpace, on Tinder, on your mom's book club, your dad's golf outing. I don't know, that's all I got. So yeah,
write it on your grandma's wristwatch.
There you go. Yeah, we appreciate it, and back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Alright, cheers.
Okay.
Support the names.
So we've because we'll see this track twice, so I think we'll cover Blizzard Bluff we just saw. I think Paul's very relieved to have gotten that track.
There's
without
one
making
sketchy shortcut
mistakes.
in there, but yeah.
Yeah, so on that track there's 2 shortcuts. One of them's intended where you basically just jump over a lake, it's pretty straightforward. There's a second shortcut in this track, and now there's 2 ways to do it. But as you'd assume, the easy way loses a second, so we don't go for it, unless you want to play safe. So what we basically do there is there's a fence that we jump over, but the quick way to do it, we have to kind of do a jump, and then we do a second jump which propels us over it. Now, it's not the most precise trick in the world. Oh,
Yeah, I tried to
unfortunately,
slow
this
down, but nah.
going too far. Oh, you got a 24 lap too. Actually, that's why. Oh, nice.
I get double.
Yeah, just.
Dang.
This is why we're not talking about this track. We'll come back to this one.
Yeah,
So
we'll see it again anyway.
yeah. So that with Blizzard Bluff, that skip, like you said, there's a very easy way of doing it, and I don't think anyone ever fails that way. So basically, you're risking 1 second for the chance of losing 10 seconds. Because if you slam into the fence, you have to make your, well, drive of shame back onto the main track and then just go around the corner like you're supposed to. And yeah, it's one of the bigger time saves for such a minor mistake. So that is where a lot of runs are killed, unfortunately. We are in the hardest hub of the game. Hub 3, I think. Hub 3 and Hub 4, the game just gets so much more difficult compared to Hub 1 and 2, which is pretty funny because I never get to Hub 2 anyway. So, we're going to see eventually. So we're going to see another unintended shortcut here. What we do there is we have to turn around. So the game lets us kind of do a 180 while we're still moving backwards. So we move 180 and then we get the speed from the boost pad, and because we need the drift to keep our speed, and then we jump onto the fence and then we use that to propel us forward over the lake. This is another notorious skip, especially for beginners and people called Natty 1720. They can't ever do this skip. And it's just one of those ones where if you fail it, that's just ridiculous time loss. Well, depending how you fail it, I guess. Because you can go for it as many times as you want, but if you slam into the wall, you're pretty much stuck, and you have to go back to the turbo pad and try again, or you can just completely fall into the hole. And they're just, it's just such a frustrating trick, especially to learn. And for a trick like that, you basically just drift into the wall and mash jump and hope you get it and hope your position's right. There is obviously timing and position in it, but I think that's the best way to tell people how to do it. That's how I learned it. It's just pretty much just mash.
It actually is just 2 jumps. Like there's nothing more to it.
Yeah.
But it's just a combination of like actually knowing where to jump and which angle you pick. That's all.
Yeah.
Like here and that angle, and that's it.
And then when we use that the bridge there, we can land on it, and if we land at the right angle, we can use that to give us another speed ghost. Because we don't really have any fire coming at the back of our engine, we don't get an amazing speed ghost or anything. But obviously, again, because we don't have any fire, we don't have to worry about our reserves because we don't have any speed to be keeping, so we might as well go for the speed ghost there.
Showed Oxide who's boss. No, Cortex. I wish it was Oxide, actually, that would be a good run, but no.
Yeah. And you can see here, this is why we don't care about the AI. We've just lapped pretty much every single one of them, even though we are using a shortcut. There is rubber banding in this game, believe it or not, but it's not Mario Kart tier rubber banding where they just bombard you with like blue shells or whatever. The AI basically don't shoot an item that specifically targets player 1, which is quite useful. If you unlucky, or if you just drive too slow, you can get targeted by missiles early on to the track. But like I said, I don't think we ever actually get targeted by them unless we're lapping them. Sewer Speedway earlier in the run's actually quite a funny one for that, because the AI will literally shoot a missile backwards at you because you're catching them up, and they don't support that.
It goes forward for a while and then curves around back to you, and you have nothing to hit it with, and it's like, oh, okay, thanks. Rest in peace, run.
Because that's actually the thing, you can block rockets with items, so it's good to actually hold an item if it's like a TNT or something. It's good to hold them, and then if you do, for some reason, get targeted by a missile, I think Rouge Tubes, you can get targeted on that too, and they just kind of shoot off the side of the track at you.
It comes through like the top part and then goes through the wall and comes down to you.
Yeah, it's just so ridiculously, well, unfair in some ways, but at the same time, it's just easily avoidable as long as you drive fast, I guess. So this track, we like to say this is usually a good donation reading place. There's nothing new in this track. It uses the hills to get good jumps that shoot us forward. There's Is that the speed ghost on that first part? It kind of is, isn't it? Is it not?
No. I mean,
No.
it's a propulsion, but it's not an SG you actually have lasting anywhere.
Yeah. Because you can kind of get speed going downhill, but not all of them give you speed that you can actually keep. But this track, there's a lot of very minor things that we do, and just everything just adds up because it's such a long track to do. And there is a skip, actually, but the time trial world record, I think at one point only did the skip twice out of 3 times. It's that difficult. And
I think it's twice even now, actually. I don't think anybody's done this for
Is it?
yet. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think so.
And that's using a faster character than Coco
Yeah.
for that, because it's just it is possible with Coco, I believe, but it's getting to a point where you might as well just say, well, that's just Taz tier at this point. It saves 13 seconds a lap, so I mean that's like 40 seconds we could be saving on this one track, but it's just not possible.
It's
really.
only barely possible too with Coco, like compared to what
Yeah.
Panda can do. He just flops over the wall easily. But there's a task of Coco doing the shotgun, like she barely makes it over. Like he scrapes
Yeah.
by.
So I think we've actually covered why we use Coco. I guess it's we can call her a waifu. We get
Yeah,
some
that's-
we can get some Japanese theme to this run. There are 2 characters which are preferred for speedruns, these being Coco and Engine. They have identical stats. So they have 4 max speed, they have full acceleration L5, they
It's
just
3
have
max speed, a 5 acceleration, and then like 2 turning.
2 handling.
There you go.
So they're not strictly the fastest character, but because her handling isn't complete garbage, it's better to use her than, say, Dingo and Tiny, who have full speed. You may have just noticed there was no cutscene there, so that's the cutscene we skip, is the one just before Komodo Joe. And then we can talk about Dragon Mines. Now, this track relies on cycles. Luckily for us, these cycles are always the same once we load the track, and I think this is actually one of the tracks that actually always keeps them when we start the track again as well. So we always know where the mine carts are going to be, and as we saw on the last run through of this, unfortunately fortunately and unfortunately, Paul went too fast on lap 2 and caught up with the cycle on lap 3, so that was a bit unfortunate. So you do get penalised for going fast. But yeah, these cycles, like I say, are always the same. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like,
Doing it again.
I don't think that's the cycle I'm supposed to get. Like, if I go for that, I'm right in front of the minecart, so I gotta slow down. There's a timer queue, that it's based on the timer up there, you can see it there. It's on a... When you load the track, it gives you the cutscene, and you skip it immediately, so we know exactly where the cycles are going to be using the timer. This one's going to be at 104.5. There we go, it's going to come out, and I'm still too fast somehow. I don't even know how, because I'm not getting good SGs, but okay.
It's your first laps, 27.97.
Yeah.
So yeah, that unfortunately, because you're in that shortcut, the minecart track slows you down, but you don't want to be throwing away all your speed in there. So you kind of have to try and. I'm not speaking from experience. I haven't managed to actually do this in a run yet. So, but yeah, you can catch that up, and that can just. But getting flattened in the section where you don't have a lot of speed because the game slows you down there, it can just, that's another run killer right there, which is such a minor thing. Here we've got the final boss on top of a lizard's head,
It's fitting.
and this is a cutscene that's actually really short, and then it just sits there for however long. It just doesn't move, it just stares at you. It's quite creepy actually. So that's obviously, again, that's a cutscene that's been swapped around. That's the final boss, I think, challenging us to a race.
Okay, time for a quick donation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have our wonderful friend McNuggies420 coming back, $24.20 donation, and he says, "Weed destroys all its enemies, and so shall you. Castlevania all bosses." So thank you, McNuggies420. You never disappoint, and you the chat should never disappoint McNuggies 420. If he donates for Castlevania All Bosses, then so should you. We need your help to make sure that happens. Don't let McNuggies 420 down. That would be the ultimate sin you commit this weekend. Thank you.
I think
We
this
just
donation
wanna be-
only came to be because of Joe Rogan anyway, so...
There you go.
Okay, so Engine Labs is where we start using another. We haven't mentioned any new terms in a while, so let's throw this one out there. This is I think this is a fan favorite. I think. Here we have what's called the Ultimate Sacred Fire, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen. You go super fast because what we basically use there is what's called a super turbo pad. There's 4 of the there's 5 tracks, but turbo track's a bonus track, so we won't see that in the run. But there's 4 tracks that have these, and they're all hub 4 tracks. And basically what they do is they just send you really fast off the ramp. But the idea of them is they're not supposed to keep the speed afterwards. But because of the reserve system in this game, if you have enough reserves, basically you keep that speed as long as you have reserves. So you'll see here Paul's got to make sure he's managing his mini turbos really well. You have to get as many mini turbos as full as you possibly can here, whereas you won't get a very good USF. So we can keep this USF all the way through here, and then obviously we can't keep it past this turbo pad. We can keep some speed from it, but once you go onto a different turbo pad, you lose that speed that the USF gives you. So it overwrites that speed. I think it's like a minus value or something like that. It's USF has its own speed value, and just anything that's not a super turbo pad basically overwrites that.
I don't know
So we
what the
notice
technical thing for it is, but yeah, it replaces all your speed with some value and just keeps it going until you do a boost of any other kind, which is why you never see MTs doing this or any landing boosts.
Yeah,
This
so you
turbo
notice
item.
we don't jump off the ramp as well. We just speed, and then because of how the ramp's positioned, we don't need to jump to land on the other side. So we just keep that speed. That's the easier of the 2 tracks that we pretty much use it on. Cortex Castle coming up now again uses one, but this track, well, you have to make sure you pretty much can't get away with missing any mini turbos because there's only really 2 turbo pads you can use, and there's a third one which is a little wide, so we don't want to use that one because that loses time going for it. So here we're going to make sure that we have our drifts as long as we possibly can. That spider's annoying. And we can also get landing boosts. Now landing boosts do add to our reserves as well. So any kind of boosts will add to it, but obviously the longer we hold our mini turbos, the more reserves we get for them. But if our reserves aren't high enough and we go for the USF, basically if you don't have enough reserves, the USF just cuts really short and you're stuck with pretty much base speed, no fire, no reserves and nothing, and it's just, you just go so slow. So if you know you're not going to get a USF, so you may have made a mistake at some point, it might be worth just going for the landing boost, so that way at least you have fire. You can see how fast we go there. You have to be really careful as well. If you even tap a wall ever so slightly, you lose all your reserves. The game is really just unfair when it comes to that. So obviously you don't want to go hitting walls, but we can't abuse walls in this game for corners or anything like that, because once you hit the corner, all your fire, all your reserves is just completely gone. You have to start from pretty much base speed again. You can kind of keep your fire on PAL, which is not something you can do on NTSC, but because of the frame rate, you can kind of keep fire, but I think it's only really aesthetics. It doesn't actually add to your speed. So yeah, luckily we've got 2 USFs. This last lap, once you've got the first 2, this third one we don't have to worry about too much. Obviously we have to still make sure we're boosting as best as we can, but if you miss a mini turbo, it's not the end of the world, because you don't have to hold your USF for as long, because obviously you only have to go across the finish line at this point, so you don't need to worry about keeping it to the first ramp. And it's very, like, it's a consistent track. It's a very consistent track, this one is. Obviously also those spiders will send you off in a spin. You can avoid those, but it is a very consistent track, but it's a very difficult one. Well, I'm finding it a very difficult one to master, get consistent at. So now we get to, I guess, really this is one of my favorite tracks, Hot Air Skyway.
Let's get a big
don't
skip
forget
to it.
to, yeah, lag. Don't forget the lag
Yeah.
injection.
I actually remember. Yeah, there we go.
So, we didn't mention as well, we look backwards on Hot Air Skyway and 2 tracks on Pokemon Crash Code and Mystery Cave. Yeah, that's basically just to reduce lag, so less things on screen while it's loading. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna load the track, and then we're gonna drive backwards, and we come up to this fence, and then, oh, there we go. We land back on the track, and we've basically skipped about 5 seconds worth of the track there. It looks difficult, but once you kind of get the idea of it, it's not too bad.
Well, there's another like 10 seconds there.
Yeah, and then there's a second shortcut right after it, which I think a lot of people may have already known about. It's one you can actually kind of guess playing casually. You can think, oh, can I nip over that wall? And you can, but how the game works is that when you're driving, in every single pixel of the track you drive on, you load a pixel the other side, or something to that effect. So basically, what we have to do is we have to go a certain amount down the track so that this section that we jump on is actually loaded when we get to it. Obviously, if you don't load enough of the track, you can that's another really big mistake. If you load just enough to land, but you haven't loaded enough to drive into, you can just sometimes just hit a zone where it basically says, no, you're not supposed to be here. But luckily, how Aku picks you up, if you fall off the side I don't think we've fallen off the side of the track, actually, which I guess is a good thing. But how this game works is Aku will pick you up and he'll put you back on the last bit of track that he knew you were on. So if you do the jump and then you just get immediately picked up from Aku, he'll put you back on the top bit of track. If you manage to land on the bottom track in any way where Aku doesn't pick you up, then he'll put you back on that piece of track. But yeah, that's quite a difficult one to learn. That second shortcut's a bit easier to learn initially, but I find it's actually more difficult to do fast once you start getting quite experienced at doing Hot Air Skyway. But that basically works off the same principle. So you have to load the track, turn around, and then jump across the fence. We use what's called a U-turn there as well. So what we do is when we're in midair, we hold square and we hold down and we hold a direction. And what that does is that gives us a really tight turn. Unfortunately, this completely cuts all your speed, so you won't really see it in any other point of the run. It's only when we're turning around for shortcuts like that, where we don't really have speed that we care about losing, and this obviously saves time. So this Oxide Station is another very difficult track. A lot of people really take a very long time learning this. I think a lot of people don't necessarily include it in their run. Oh yeah, there's some RNG as well. The AI can take a number of set paths. Obviously they're randomized which path they take. So there we go, we've seen the first shortcut in action there. So this works off the same principle they've just said in Hot Air Skyway. So
with a twist.
We have to, yeah. Unfortunately, loading the track in itself is another skip that you have to do. So there's 2 parts of this skip. The first skip, and then there's a third one, which is very easy once you understand how to play the game a bit more. So what we have to do here, I do this slightly differently, but what Paul does is he drives into the wall, and then he U-turns on the wall, and then he jumps off it down onto this lower piece of track. So that basically skips having to drive all the way down and turn around. And then on here, he jumps on the wall and then lands on that track that we've loaded. This is a one that's very fickle about loading the track, because it's very difficult to consistently land in the same spot on the first part of the shortcut. So we want to aim to land before the turbo pad, and that usually gives us a good spot. But of course, we try and optimize our shortcut as much as we can. But if we jump too far while on the other side of the shortcut, so here we see we land really far forward in front of that turbo pad. Then on this second part of the shortcut, if we don't land on a bit of loaded track, then we will get picked up by Aku, and that can be quite a costly mistake. Because doing that shortcut after you've failed it can be so frustrating, because you can't do it the same way. You have to jump on the wall. Luckily for us, that wall lets you slide onto it as well. It's how I do the shortcut. So instead of driving into it and U-turning, I do a drift into the wall, which is, it can be faster than doing the U-turn, but it can also be slower depending on how well you get it. So it's neither really here nor there, I guess. It's whichever method you found easier is one people to say tend to choose.
U-turn should be faster in theory, though.
Yes, in theory, but you can get very short drifts and you can jump immediately, and I think that's the time trial strat. But it's just a very precise trick, so I just go for the drift, not because it's faster, but because it's something I've learned and I've gotten used to, and I'm more confident doing that in runs for the minor time loss that I might have. So now, unfortunately, we've reached all the tracks in the game, so now we're just going to see a repeat of Hot Air Skyway and Oxide Station. So these two difficult tracks that we've got into 45 minutes into the run, we've got to do another time. This time we've got Pinstripe shooting bombs at us, which can be a bit of a pain on lap one. Fortunately there, Paul's managed to dodge any bombs that he does shoot. They're random where he shoots them, but he only shoots them backwards. So once you're ahead of him, he's not an issue at all until we get to lap 3, and hopefully we'll be ahead of him again. Because with these tracks being so broken, it's very easy to catch up with the AI on laps 3 and lap them. But if you don't do laps 1 and 2 fast enough, you can actually be slightly behind lapping Pinstripe, so you have to put up with his bombs on the very last part of the track. I think all the bosses tend to just throw items at you in some manner.
No, they throw them at whenever they want. It's scripted, but it's not like aimed at you specific.
Yeah. Because I think there's just a multiple amount of spots that they'll put an item on, isn't there? Depending what routes they take. Unfortunately, this track is not where major RNG comes into. It's the next track, which will be racing against Oxide a second time. Not like a second time, racing Oxide Station a second time. Obviously racing against Oxide. But you'll see his items, and it's just the bottle spawns for the first shortcut are completely random. And unfortunately for such a difficult game, you can get to the very end and then your run is just completely killed because you get a configuration of bottle spawns that you just cannot do the shortcut with, and it just completely kills your run. So
when I went for my current PB, I think I killed like 7-ish runs there, so that are some enjoyable times in my life.
Yeah. So that's... Oh, sorry?
Sorry, do we have a quick second for a plug?
Yep.
Yep.
I'll let you all know again, remind you, if you donate, the Crash Team Racing run is almost over, but still have time to donate to win that cool prize. We have the cool Pwulla that was generously donated by Sam Sprites. You can follow her shop, etsy.com/ca/Sam Sprites, if I can actually talk. Yeah, it's just $5. You got a few more minutes to kind of donate, get yourself in there, getting a chance to win that. Not too many people donated during this block, so it's got a pretty good chance of winning it. So yeah, $5, that's all you need to make that happen. And up next after this run will be Mega Man X3 by Luis Miguel. And then right after that will be Undertale by TGH Plays.
Donate for that base Aku Hulbaga.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what he actually says, even still.
That's true, yeah. It's one of those mysteries. I think they claim a guy came into the office and made a noise, and that's...
Oxide pushed me.
Oh, yeah. Is that actually RNG? Or is it just...
I'll just go the normal way, I can't be... Doing that.
Yeah, so... What happened there is you also see Oxide as a filthy cheater, and he starts slightly before you. Starts on the second to last beep on the start line. So that head start basically gives him the chance to just completely deny you from doing a shortcut there. So you're seeing there, doing the backup for that shortcut in particular is just a pain because you have to get enough speed. So you have to judge how much time you can waste getting enough run up to get enough speed to jump onto the wall, because you can't just drive into it. You have to actually do a jump onto the wall at that point. So that's just RNG there. Oxide moves very fast as well, so the challenge would be for this race. So he can just playing this casually, he can just be quite difficult to beat just because of how fast he does drive. But once we've gotten this first shortcut, we don't see him again until the end of the track, which is where really the second bout of RNG hits us.
Especially now that I've actually made a hefty mistake, you'll have to get even more RNG than ever before in the track.
Yeah. So you'll see, we can gauge our lap times and how well we're doing. Well, how well we're doing by the lap times. So you can see what that first one was, 13, 14 seconds that we've lost just from that one mistake, and that's just RNG. And
Ooh, these configs. I made it there.
oh,
Okay,
no. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
It's fine.
Oh.
I've got the normal way
That's
again. But on the bright side, I don't think I will hit red bottles now, because that's like costing enough time for them to despawn.
Yeah, I think they will. Because, yeah, the lucky thing is items do despawn. When there's too many items on the track, the older ones start exploding. But as you see there, there's these bottles just thrown straight in front of our entrance to the shortcut. So you have to have really tricky maneuvers.
Oh, but I get this!
And then
Obstacle
yeah,
balls,
because
here we go.
because we've lost
Oh no!
too much time. Oh,
I love this one. It's like actually fun, but it's not fun when you have to do it in a run. Oh no.
yeah. Oh. Yeah, these bottles are just randomly placed all over the track. If you do the track perfectly, you won't have this issue.
Time.
Again, it's just more RNG. And there we go. There's the run. Well,
Dang. Got
what was the
decent
time on
already.
that one?
I got a 51-41 on my end, but I don't know what it's RTA.
Nice. That's still better than my PB. So.
Oh, right.
I missed the stop of the clock, but
It's fine.
yeah, like 51, 54.
Alright.
Nice run.
Really good game. I hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed it. The game crashes here because we're in PAL and we have language glitch on, so it doesn't load the ending.
Yeah. It doesn't know what credits or whatever to load, so it just gives up.
The 101 ending does work though for some bizarre reason, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic commentary. It was really hard for me to get in my plugs every now and then, but that's fine. You did a fantastic job, really entertaining run. So great job, Paul, and Natty. Thanks for the commentary.
I'm
Yeah, thanks
Natty
for the
once,
run,
so-
guys.
Can I go off now?
Oh, give me 1 second here. Yes,
Sure.
you can. I will switch the audio.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks again.
Sweet.
Okay. So here we go.
All right. Oh, we got okay. So we got our commentators there. I can pull them in whenever. And you know that you're streaming Discord, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Very briefly here, while I'm still setting up, would like to remind everybody that you're watching JRTA3, a marathon that is trying to raise money to bring talented Japanese speedrunners to America for Awesome Games Done Quick 2017. And the runners that we are raising money for are Suzuri, who will be running Kirby's Dream Land 3, Kirby Superstar, and Donkey Kong Country 3. And our second runner is Pure, also known as ZZZ Honky. And Pure, of course, the Kirby Superstar, I guess prodigy would be an appropriate word. So he will be in the 4-player race of Kirby Superstar as well, and he's heavily favored in that race. So with that being said, we need to raise $3,800 to cover their flights, their hotel, their basic expenses while they're here. So far we've raised a little over $600, and that's very good, but I encourage you all to keep donating. And we do have some incentives for you. Obviously, Undertale is the game that's coming up after Mega Man X3, and in Undertale you'll need to decide whether there is a hug or no hug, and that is quite a bid war that we think is going to start to heat up here as we get closer to Undertale. So with that in mind, we've got X3 coming up right now, and I will bring that stream up here. You can go ahead and pull the runners in here, or both the commentators rather.
Yep. Hey guys.
Hello, hello.
Franker Z Slash.
How's it going? We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. Just setting things up right now.
Sounds good.
We're on stream, right, Colton?
Yes, audio is on stream.
All
right. Can we get Louise to switch to a screen that has audio though? Because I can't tell what the audio balance is like.
Sure.
Yeah, you picked probably like the worst screen to idle on.
I can't crop it. I can't hear anything.
Just gotta go to the password screen. It's perfect.
Alright, it's getting there in a second.